I want to share a simple framework for you that is going to help you understand how you can move through movement mastery. It's actually called Kinesthetic intelligence. It's one of the intelligence that Howard Gardner put forward in his book Multiple Intelligence Theory. We've simply grabbed that and used it and applied it in many areas of our coaching over the last, I own a gym here in Canberra. I've had it for 14 years. I've worked in the industry since 2004, and I've worked with about 10,000 people. And rather than going, we teach the right technique, our goal isn't to teach the right technique. Our goal is to help people develop a deeper kinesthetic awareness or a deeper body intelligence. And the reason being is that I can teach them what I think is the right technique on a barbell deadlift, when in reality, what I want to do is teach them, help them understand how they know that they're moving better. They want to be able to answer the question, what tells me on the inside that I'm moving well? How do I know that I've got adequate tension through my midline, that my hamstrings and my glutes are doing the right thing, that I've got stability in my shoulder, so that all of these questions, they're actually able to have a really good internal sense of whether they're doing it or not. And so many years ago, I got asked the question when I was bringing on other coaches, and I had a business partner at the time, and he goes, how can we teach people to do what you do? And I was like, well, first you make the movement safe, then you make the movement strong, and then you make the movement sexy. Now, at the time, I didn't know what an alliteration was. I had no idea. I soon learned that this is what an alliteration is, and now my job is full of teaching different alliterations because they're frameworks I didn't know at the time. But what I came to learn, now just quickly, we actually call this now base, flow, and then peak. And the reason being, it's a K, it's terrible, sorry, is that it shows a peak, a base, and so forth. But when we look at safe, we're actually looking at what is somebody's range of movement. So do they have good range of movement? And if not, that's usually the first thing that we're going to address. So if somebody can't squat very well with the barbell back squat, they commonly don't have a squat problem, they've commonly got a barbell problem. I'm not really interested in a barbell back squat as much as I'm interested in their actual squat foundations and mechanics, just as a traditional movement. From there, whether we use a barbell or a dumbbell or whatever, it doesn't really matter. What I'm actually looking at is their function of their squat and how well they know that movement, and firstly, what's their range of movement. We can develop strength as we build their range of movement, so it's not about going, well, we can't touch barbells or weights until we see a deeper range of movement. I don't agree with that, and my experience doesn't see that. But what we do want to see for sure is a long-term return on your training is a healthy range of movement. The next is stability. So does the person show stability throughout that range of movement, or are they just dropping arse to grass and bouncing out of the hole with no actual stability? So they're not really moving deliberately. So once again, when we look at safe and strong, we're going to look at what's the person's range of movement. Can they produce stability through that range of movement? And then next thing here is, can they repeat that? Because what happens is that as somebody's doing a workout and they start fatiguing, if they're in their head is thinking, oh, I do it correctly, then they're just going to keep exercising even though their technique has kind of changed through the workout. Whereas we want their pace to change based on their knowledge of them moving really, really well. So this is what we look at when we look at safe movement. And these are stages to move through. So this actually looks like that, and then that. So it's called transcend and include. You don't just go tick and then move on to the next one. You always maintain a base as you move up. Really, really important. When we look at strong, what we're looking at is a stronger relationship with the body. And so the person's able to build a far greater understanding of how they function, how they move, if they're starting to get a bit of a niggle, why that could be, how they can manage that, how they need to adapt for what they need to do on every single day. For example, we don't have the same warm-up for every single person. We don't encourage the same warm-up. We have a recommended warm-up flow. What we do have, though, is we want to make sure that we've got, rather than simply exercising a group of people to all do the same shit, when we've got different mechanics, but also different learning preferences and different days. Somebody just traveled that day, somebody didn't travel that day. There's going to be so many variations in that. And what's really important to know here is that even for the same person, and I'll give myself as the example. I live in Canberra, drove up to the Gold Coast just the other week. I spent 13 hours traveling. So when I came back, I split it up overnight. So I spent 7 hours driving one day and then 5 hours in the morning the next day. And I got training that afternoon, but what my body needed was so different to what it would have needed a week prior when I didn't travel. And so I want to build, and I want to encourage other people to build, a stronger relationship with what they need on any given day. And I actually use a thing called, and you may be familiar with RPE, which stands for rate of perceived exertion, and it's usually from the powerlifting verse. And what that means is you have a self-assessment of how was, like, based on how I'm feeling today and how that set felt, was that an 8 out of 10, 9 out of 10 or whatever. We use a thing called RPI, and what RPI means is rate of preemptive intensity. So you want to start warming up and getting in your body. Your warm up is not just boxes to tick off, like I did that exercise, that exercise, that exercise. You shouldn't be in your head. You shouldn't be thinking about what you got to do, because then you're not actually in your body warming up. You want to get connected. So we have a thing called a rate of preemptive intensity. And as you're warming up, you're checking in with yourself and you're like, what do I need? Do I need to actually spend less time on my strength stuff today and more time just mobilizing and getting some movement and loading in so I can grease my joints so that I'm good for a workout? Or should I be doing more strength? This is off an example of a strength part and a workout part. So when we start to build a stronger relationship with our body, we start to build really good understanding of an RPI of my KI. I know there's a lot of acronyms, but that's kinesthetic intelligence, so body awareness. Now, when we look at sexy, this is simply the peak, right? You want to think this is black belt, this is watching the Olympics, all that kind of stuff. And what's really powerful about this is that we think we're watching this, but really what we're watching is all of this. When we watch people at that level, or if we're at that level, we're watching somebody that is standing on everything else before it as well. The best example is someone like Usain Bolt that's like, I train so I can run a race for years and years and years so I can run 10 seconds. It's like we're watching 10 seconds, but what we're actually watching is all of the years in that 10 seconds. And that's a really important lesson to learn, because when people, because there's a stage before this, because think of this as like basically peak, but this is unaware. When people jump from this stage here and they try and go to that, and this is what's called slave, because you have to push me through my workout, I'm back for more punishment, my body doesn't do what I tell it to. Like all of this is, call it slave energy. It's a slave approach to their actual physical awareness. We want to be able to move to becoming more of a student, so from slave to student. And here, when people jump too early and they start to do, you think of like a CrossFit gym, and I love CrossFit. Sometimes the gyms I think can get it wrong because they go, this is RX and everything else is scaled. Whereas we go, these are the base fundamental functional movement patterns and these are the development of everything else from there. So when somebody goes from here and not training, or an all or nothing approach, it's the same thing, because 100 times 0 will always equal 0. And they go to trying to do all the sexy stuff, their body hasn't developed the capacity to be able to continue to do that. So they're going to have an injury, they're going to break down, they're going to come back down to here. And this is where we see the all or nothing mentality again and again and again. So your job as a coach or your job as a client is to understand and move through these stages so you build a better, deeper kinesthetic awareness and body awareness, so you can make better decisions for yourself long term. And as a coach, you should be helping people develop that as well, so they are less codependent on you and they actually build independence and autonomy long term. And this is how we get intergenerational health. So this is the model. This is part of my BSFTMatrix. This was the first component of it actually that I started developing about 11 years ago, maybe 12 years ago. And it's exceptionally useful. I hope it's useful for you as well, but keep in mind that you're not there to do the right technique. You're there to build a deeper kinesthetic awareness, and for a bunch of whole different reasons. And one of them is the fact that you never touch barbells when you leave the gym, and you actually very rarely do you pick something up, put it down, pick something up, put it down, pick something up, put it down. You usually have to pick odd things up and move around with it. So it's worth knowing, how do I create tension so I can match tension to task rather than just simply doing task. That's all from me today. I hope that's been useful for you. I hope you get to use this and start applying it into your training and your coaching. Any questions, shoot them through. If you want to learn a lot more about all this sort of stuff, then join me for a peak info session, and consider joining my peak community. But it's just an info session. It's free. You're on there with me. I get to answer your questions, run you through what we teach, but we teach all of this and much more in there. But it's also both an online and in-person community as well. If you're interested, check it out. Links below. There's a few other resources there for you as well. That's me done. I'm out. Until next time, peace and pizza. I'll see you soon.